Warren Buffett says he's owned 400 to 500 stocks in his lifetime, but only made significant money on about 10 of them. In the 6th chapter of his book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel says, "Tails, you win. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune." He talks about the world's best art dealers, and art seems to be so subjective. How do you determine which artist is going to have his artwork millions of dollars versus a typical artist whose artwork is worth virtually nothing? And what they found out is the very successful art dealers are the ones who bought a whole lot of art. They basically diversified. They bought art from all different kinds of artists, and probably 99% of what they bought was worth almost nothing. But that 1%, the Picassos that ended up being worth millions of dollars, much more than made up for the 99% that was worthless. Some people would call that luck. Others would call that skill. But there's many things in business and investing that are really that way. The more shots you take, the better chance you have of making one. Think about if you're a basketball player, maybe you're a decent player, maybe you're not. Are you going to have a better chance of hitting a half-court shot if you take one half-court shot or if you take 100? The more shots you take, the better chance you have of scoring. And he gives example after example from Disney films to venture capitalists that diversified, that took lots of shots, that made lots of investments, and some of them ended up paying out. In fact, he points out that 40% of all Russell 3000 stock components lost at least 70% of their value and never recovered. And yet, overall, the index returns were 7%. That's without even reinvesting dividends. How could that happen? Well, the 30% that made money did so much better than those that lost money, right? And that's, venture capitalists know that many of their investments will not work out, but they're diversified. I think this is one of the arguments for buying an ETF like a Vanguard total index, or a lot of people buy an S&P 500 index. I like VTI even better because it's so highly diversified that it's basically tracing nearly the whole market. He points out that the Russell 3000 increased more than 73-fold since 1980. 1980 is when I was born. 73 times its investment as a whole, even with all those companies going to zero. Napoleon's definition of a military genius was the man who can do the average thing when all those around him are going crazy. That's in many ways the way it is for financial investing.